we're going to go ahead. We are going to discuss the ever expanding Trump Epstein fiasco. He recently announced that he was suing the Wall Street Journal, Rupert Murdoch, and the parent company of the Wall Street Journal as well for $20 billion. This defamation suit comes on the heels of the Wall Street Journal publishing, the details of a birthday letter that Donald Trump wrote to Jeffrey Epstein on his 50th birthday. How did we get here? Well, it's very simple. Donald Trump is implicated in the Epstein files. We know this for a fact now that Pam Bondi and everyone in the Department of Justice has come out and said, oh, there are actually no Epstein files. There's no client list. We lied to you guys. Here's the videotape that was edited, actually. There is no Jeffrey Epstein in Ba Sing Se. That is what Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice said to us, even though we know very credibly that there is an Epstein case. There is a client list. Donald Trump was listed on the flight logs no less than 7 times. We had Stephen King, one of the premier liberal posters when it comes to hating Trump, come out and say that the Epstein list is real, very much like how the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus are real. That motherfucker was on the island. I can assure you of that. Donald Trump is also remarkably combative anytime that he gets pressed about this or that he gets asked about this, effectively saying that it's bullshit, it's a hoax. The Democrats concocted this. It was, who was it? He said it was Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden who authored the Epstein files. Virtually every Republican in the administration is saying, hey, fuck you guys for thinking that any of these people will be brought to justice. We are not going to expose the premier pedophile ring of, I would say, the existence of humanity. I think that is how vast the scope of this is. The fallout from this has been interesting because MAGA is now split into 2 factions. You have the Trump dick riders, obviously, and then the posters who are actually upset at Donald Trump for this, which are more people than I expected. There is a decently sized group of online commentators who are like, shame on Donald Trump for not doing what he said he was going to do. Even Theo Vaughn, he quote tweeted a tweet or a clip from his podcast where he sat down with JD Vance and where JD Vance was like, we are going to release the Epstein files. These people need to be brought to justice. Someone reposted that clip and said, what changed? And then Theo Vaughn quote tweeted that tweet and said, yeah, JD Vance, what changed? What changed was that Donald Trump is very clearly implicated in these files. There's no other way for me to sugarcoat this. Before we get into the Republican media civil war, we're going to hear some reporting on this matter, more specifically reporting on the new lawsuit that is coming about from Donald Trump to the Wall Street Journal. Oh my God, my mouse is not cooperating with me today.
Tonight, amid the ongoing firestorm over the administration's handling of Justice Department files on notorious sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, the president filing a $10 billion libel lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal's parent company, owner Rupert Murdoch, and the reporters behind its article, describing an album prepared by Epstein's former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, for his 50th birthday back in 2003. According to documents the Journal says it reviewed, the album contained letters from Trump and dozens of Epstein's other friends and associates. NBC News has not independently verified the existence of the documents. The Wall Street Journal says the letter contains several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked woman, which appears to be hand-drawn, and says the text consists of an imaginary conversation between Trump and Epstein. The president strongly denying the report, saying, "This is not me. This is a fake thing. It's a fake Wall Street Journal story," adding,
What I don't understand from the Trump administration is they keep denying the friendship that existed between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. They were very clearly buddy-buddy with one another. There are multiple videos of them hanging out together. There are pictures upon pictures upon pictures of them hanging out together. Jeffrey Epstein said that he was Donald Trump's best friend. You can't come out and say that this report is bullshit when there is already a mountain of evidence saying that you guys were virtually in love with one another.
I don't draw pictures of women. It's not my language. It's not my words. According to the Wall Street Journal, the written dialogue of the imaginary conversation includes the lines, Donald, enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey, as a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Donald, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret.
You're going to tell me that he's going to say, a pal is a wonderful thing. It is absolutely tremendous, this thing that we call friendship. No one says that word anymore, but I do. I like to think that I'm keeping the word friendship alive. A pal is a wonderful thing. You mean to tell me that you cannot picture that coming out of Donald Trump's mouth? You like, I could hear him saying that. He's sitting down with like the Prime Minister of Albania. I mean, like, this is my pal, Prime Minister Albania. A pal is a wonderful thing, isn't it, Mr. Albania? I'll tell you, that Dua Lipa, I am very jealous that she is Albanian.
Vice President Vance slamming the report, posting, "Where is this letter? Would you be shocked to learn they never showed it to us before publishing it? Does anyone honestly believe this sounds like Donald Trump?"
I do.
All of it after that rare reversal from President Trump. Tonight, the Department of Justice asking a federal judge to unseal grand jury testimony related to Epstein, following this overnight post from the president. Based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein, I've asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. By law, grand jury testimony is kept secret, with some limited exceptions. The president's sudden about-face, an attempt to silence an uproar from some of his most vocal supporters, who wanted all Epstein-related material to be released. The president had blasted those supporters as weaklings for falling for what he called a distraction pushed by Democrats.
The credible information's been given. It's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people.
And today, suggesting there was no damaging information on him in the files, posting, "If there was a smoking gun on Epstein, why didn't the Dems who controlled the files for 4 years use it? Because they had nothing."
No, it's because there are high-profile Democrats who are also implicated. The pedophilia in the government of the United States is bipartisan. I can't, say specifically who was there. Perhaps Bill Clinton, maybe Nancy Pelosi was involved. But all of the Democrats, and there are a few who have spoken out against this, are speaking out because, yeah, they're involved. They didn't release it. The Democrats didn't release it because they had nothing. They didn't release it because some of them were involved. This all, like, he thinks that all of his supporters are stupid. If he's not implicated, why did he not allow Pam Bondi to release it? Do you remember the spectacle that Republicans showed us by giving all of these binders to sexless losers like Benny Johnson and DC Drano and Chaya Raichik? What happened? You made a show out of this. You made a show out of a heinous situation. And then a few months after that, your FBI director, Kash Patel, goes on Joe Rogan and says, there's nothing there. He killed himself. It's pretty obvious. He killed himself. People kill themselves in prison all the time. And now, shortly after that, the whole administration is basically pissing on MAGA by saying, sorry, Jeffrey Epstein actually never existed. You made that up. You had a schizophrenic hallucination. It's like that drawing of that dude with the bushy eyebrows that appears in everyone's dreams. It says, have you seen this man? Get rid of that doodle and just replace it with Jeffrey Epstein.
Controversy heated up after Bondi repeatedly teased the release of Epstein files.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
But then the DOJ and FBI releasing a memo saying they had found no incriminating client list of Epstein's and that they would make no further disclosure.
And Garrett joins us tonight. Garrett, earlier this week, the president told you he had total confidence in Attorney General Pam Bondi. But you have new reporting tonight that there's a different feeling among others in the White House?
Yeah, Tom, some White House officials are frustrated that the president has been left to clean up what they believe is a mess created by Bondi and the DOJ with the release of that memo in the first place. Now, as for that filing asking for grand jury records to be released, the DOJ cites the enormous public interest in this case in their appeal to the judge to release that information, but a decision on that could take some time. Tom?
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top.
Someone who is really fumbling this situation is Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson, all 5'7" of him, is doing his best to talk out of both sides of his mouth in regards to Donald Trump's connection to Jeffrey Epstein. Mike Johnson said to release the files, right? I forget if it was on Twitter or if it was during an interview, but he called on the Department of Justice to release all of the information that they have, that the general public deserves to know what is going on in relation to this case. He says that after voting against releasing the files. It's not about what you say when you're in public office. It is about your voting record. And Mike Johnson's voting record, as it stands right now, is that he does not want the release of the Epstein files. We have this article from CNBC. Oh, before I forget, the Republicans talking about there's no evidence. It was recently reported that there are more than 4,000 transactions to Jeffrey Epstein by one single bank account that totals more than $1 billion. That means more than 4,000 investigations into Jeffrey Epstein and all of his collaborators. They think that you are stupid. There's really no other way to analyze this situation. It can be that superficial. But getting back to Mike Johnson, he recently came out and said that Republicans want maximum transparency. He was on CNBC claiming that they want maximum transparency, which again is fascinating when you consider that this guy, this goober, voted against the release of the files. Let's hear what he has to say.
I know that in terms of just whether there's a schism in MAGA world or in the Republican Party, I think the president echoed your comments about any additional documents related to this obsession with the Epstein files. He said it. I think he's saying today basically the same thing you said, that any pertinent things, if the court allows to produce any pertinent grand jury testimony subject to the court approval. And you've said that too. And do you expect that to happen? I mean, how does this play out? It's everywhere. It's, leads to all, Drudge. It's all over the place with, sirens on Drudge. Woo, 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 because someone drew in 2003, might have drawn a picture of a body letter before the guy even, all the real info hadn't even been out at that point. I don't.
Financial news networks they should have their licenses rescinded by the FCC. This isn't an issue because Donald Trump drew a pair of titties on a birthday card for someone. This is an issue because Donald Trump drew a pair of titties on a birthday card for the most prolific pedophile who has ever existed Moreover, it's not only that Donald Trump drew these titties for a prolific pedophile, it's that he had a very close relationship with this prolific pedophile. This prolific pedophile who allegedly had more than 1,000 victims. This prolific pedophile who had a private island in the Caribbean where he would sex traffic underage girls. Why? Why does this anchor feel the need to run defense for a political or for a pedophile? It I don't understand. It is incomprehensible to me.
Think about this guy.
The president and I talked about that ridiculous allegation this morning. He said it's patently absurd. He's never drawn such a picture. He's never thought of drawing such a picture. And he said, did you see the language of this bogus supposed communication or card or something I supposedly sent to Epstein? He said, I don't talk like that. I don't think like that. They're literally making things up. And he's so frustrated by it. And he's going to wind up, I think, suing some of the media outlets that had put all this out there because they informed them that it was totally contrived. So, look, the president is the most maligned and attacked political figure in the history of American politics. There's no question about it. But he's also the most resilient. And you see at the same time, his approval ratings are skyrocketing. By CNN had a story, I think, a day or two ago. He was at 90% approval rating. There's never been a president that high. So the more that they attack...
That's among Republicans, by the way. That's among Republicans. His actual approval rating is probably around 40% the last time I checked. It works out to like 90% Republicans, 10% Democrats, and I think his approval rating around independents is somewhere around 35%.
Like him. The more the American people see through it.
What could be released and why wasn't it? How do you... I don't know whether you have no more information than I do, but what do you think was going on when it looked like something was going to come out? Then, there's nothing to release, and from a PR standpoint, that was I don't know, that it wasn't great the way it was handled. Is there more to come out? Will it come out?
Are you in favor of it coming out?
I am. Look, I've been on record repeatedly. I've never seen all of the Epstein files. It's outside my lane. I mean, I'm running the House. This is over at DOJ, but. What I believe in is maximum transparency, and so does President Trump, and that's what he said. He says it.
I believe in maximum transparency, which is why I voted against the release of these very files that I want maximum transparency for.
Many different ways, many different times, but we want all credible evidence to be put out there for the American people. Reagan used to remind us to trust the American people. They're smarter than anybody gives them credit for. And I believe people can draw their own conclusions about that, but they have to have the documents. Now, at the same time, I think the interest here and the concern and frankly the duty, the responsibility is to protect the innocent, right? So if you have minors who are victims of sex trafficking, heaven forbid, child predatory activity, you can't have their names out there, right? So the courts and law enforcement and government agencies have a custom of protecting the innocent. Bogus allegations that would be made against people that can't be authenticated. So that's the concern. They're trying to thread that needle because the Department of Justice does have a responsibility to make sure those people's lives are not destroyed. Imagine if their names came out on a list. Immediately, the media and social media would pounce on these people, and it would be lasting and permanent damage. So they got to be very.
Is he talking about He's talking about the victims. You can just anonymize them. This is not new. Victims of crime have their identities concealed all the time, which I understand. I understand wanting to protect these people not only from potential attacks by any freakazoids, but also the trauma that comes from being involved in a situation like this. We're not looking for the victims to be exposed. We are looking for the perpetrators to be exposed.
Careful. But aside from that, aside from the things that would be, held back from a court of law, I say put it out there, and I think the president believes the same thing.
So, Mr. Speaker, it sounds like there is no daylight right now. The way you're describing it, there is no daylight between what you and the president want released and other Republicans but there is a portrayal that there is a schism going on in the Republican Party. I mean, Representative Norman sided with Democrats in trying to amend the crypto legislation to force the release of all of the Epstein files. I mean, this is playing out in Congress. And to the extent that this impedes your ability to advance the Republican legislative agenda, how do you repair that rift if it sounds like there is no daylight between what you and the president want released and what other members of Congress want released?
Well, and there's no daylight between us and Ralph Norman. I spent hours with Ralph. He's a dear friend yesterday. What Ralph was trying to do, he told me, he said, honestly, when the Democrat amendment came up, which was in the Rules Committee, not to get too deep in the weeds, but we were working on the rescission package. That was the clawback, fraud, waste, and abuse in federal spending. The Democrats tried to hijack the hearing. So the other Republicans on the Rules Committee did what they're supposed to do, and that is protect our legislative process and get the spending cut bill to the floor. Ralph just kind of made a spontaneous decision. The amendment was kind of dropped in at the very last minute. He hadn't given a lot of thought, but he said, well, I'm for transparency. I'll vote for that. Well, guess what? Every member of the Rules Committee agrees with the same thing. That we all were in a room last night for an hour, all of them, Ralph, Chip Roy, the other members of the Rules Committee, they all agree. And so they signed on to another resolution last night in committee asserting that very thing. So all the House Republicans, I'm telling you, every single one of them here agree with this idea. Everybody wants the Epstein files, which is the real documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and anybody associated with that. We want the American people to see it. We've all committed to that. And everybody's saying it in different ways, but the message is the exact same.
This is just
Mr.
bullshit.
Speaker,
This is a lie. This is untrue. This is farcical. This is not based in reality at all. What was it? Like, there were only 6 House Republicans that voted to release the Epstein files. It was like Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene. What was the... I think I have it. Oh my God, it's even, dude, it's even worse than I thought. This was July 15th. House GOP blocks second Democrat attempt to release the Epstein files. House Republicans on Tuesday voted down another Democratic procedural maneuver aimed at forcing the Justice Department to release documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. Why it matters. It's the second time this week Democrats have forced their GOP colleagues to choose between loyalty to President Trump and a MAGA base that is furious at his administration over its handling of the Epstein files. Democrats are already promising future votes. Quote, that was probably not the last time that you're going to see us deal with this issue, House Rules Committee Ranking Member Jim McGovern, Democrat, Massachusetts, told Axios. Republicans dismissed the vote as a cynical partisan ploy, with Representative Tim Burchett, Republican Tennessee, telling Axios, quote, it's not just politics, it's about protecting little children, and that ticks me off. Again, this is like untrue. If you wanted to protect these children, if you actually gave a fuck about protecting children, which, by the way, Republicans do not give a fuck about that, you would prosecute all of the people who victimized these children. It's really that simple. It's about bringing justice to people who have been dealt extraordinary trauma, who have had their lives ruined, by a bunch of highly influential freaks. Not voting to release these files does not allow justice to be served. The House voted 211 to 210 against allowing a House vote on Representative Ro Khanna's measure to force the DOJ to publish the Epstein files online within 30 days. Democrats' procedural motion would have scuttled the GOP's legislative agenda for the day in favor of the Khanna bill, making it difficult for Republicans to vote for it. The vote fell along party lines, with all Democrats who were present voting for their party's maneuver and all Republicans voting against it. It came after Republicans on the House Rules Committee voted Monday night against attaching the Epstein language to a broader cryptocurrency and defense funding bill. And then we have something about Ralph Norman, who Mike Johnson was just talking about. So whenever any of these fucking imbeciles come online and they're like, we're actually looking to protect the victims by allowing all of these pedophiles and rapists and human traffickers to not seek justice. Just know that they are just know that they are just as fucking demonic as the people who perpetuated these crimes, because they are covering up these heinous actions.